Hey, it's Jared. In 30 days, I ran 200 miles, and I'm not a runner. I have never been a runner. I've wanted to be a runner, and I'm on my way to becoming a runner because I decided at the beginning of this year I was going to start running. I've spent a lot of time on treadmills. Back in 2020, I did 20,000 steps a day, and it was hard work to reach 20,000 steps a day when you're typically sitting in a chair the majority of the day working behind a computer. To achieve 20,000 steps is really hard, and it required a lot of walking. And I would try to run, but I wouldn't get more than a couple of minutes before I was fatigued and had to take a break. Something was hurting on my body or heavy breathing. I just wasn't able to do it. And if I think all the way back into my early 20s, even when I would go to the gym and work out and get on the treadmill, I couldn't run for more than 4 or 5 minutes, even in my early 20s. And now I'm in my mid 40s and struggling up to the end of last year to do any form of running. Now, I have kids. I have 4 kids from ages 12 and down, and I want to be able to keep up with them. Becoming a runner isn't necessarily my goal, but being able to keep up with my kids and just stay at their pace is important to me. I remember going to the gym back when I was in my early 20s and seeing these guys in their 40s and 50s that were just in great shape and just killing it, and I thought to myself, boy, how much time do they have to spend at the gym? And it's not really about that, it's about consistency. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how I was able to get to 200 miles in 1 month, which I did not start out with that as my goal. I did not think that I would be able to get but maybe 100 miles in, because I knew even if I walked it out and walked for a couple hours a day on the treadmill, I could get to 100 miles in a month. But I ended up ending the month at 200 miles, and I've been running, and I just really enjoy it, and it's taking less time as I spend more time doing it. So there's a couple of important things that helped me along the way. First of all, when I would get on the treadmill, I didn't really know what I was trying to achieve. I didn't know what speed I was trying to achieve. I didn't know what my cadence was or any of that stuff. Understanding how fast you're going and what's a good speed and what's a good cadence to run at is the main part, I believe, because if you could figure out what's consistent, then you can maintain it and you can try to stay at that pace, which means things are going to be more sustainable. When I started out the month, I tried running. I was running a little bit and walking a bit, and it was a trade-off, run, walk, and there was a lot more walking than there was running. But as I progressed throughout the month, I started increasing in the running and decreasing in the walking to the point where now I'm running probably 5 or 6 minutes, and then I'll walk for a minute just to kind of let things rest a little bit, because it's only been a month. I've seen a lot of transformations in my body, and I've lost some weight, and I'm definitely more flexible. My breathing is not nearly as labored as it was. There's a lot of transformations there, but I still have a lot of work to go before I could just take off running and then just run for a while and not worry about how much time I've been running or what distance or even what my cadence is. So I've got a long way to go there. But what really helped me out was connecting my iPad to Zwift and utilizing Zwift to run. Now, I had used Zwift in the past for a little bit of cycling, stationary cycling with my road bike, and I knew that it had the capability for running. And so the main thing that really helped me was connecting it to Zwift and getting the little pod that you attach to your shoe so that I could run and have my cadence and everything show up in the app and do some of these workouts that are designed to get you running to a certain point and then cool down periods. That really helped out a lot. It helped me understand that I can set the pace at a certain sustainable rate for me and then increase it as I go. As I feel like I could take on more and I get a little bit more endurance built up, I can adjust those and add to them, making them longer, making the running periods longer, increasing my pace as I grow and expand in my own abilities here. And so knowing that I can make those adjustments and then having something to follow was huge for me. Before, I was just staring at the screen at whatever miles per hour I was running, and I didn't really know what to do with it. Now, I run on an Assault Runner. I got a killer deal on an Assault Runner a while back, and I'd always wanted one. And so my treadmill is self-powered. It's not powered by electricity. So I like that because I feel more grounded and connected to the device. And I also feel like it requires a little bit more of my strength. I'm not running to keep up with a belt. I'm running to propel the belt and myself, which makes it feel much more like I'm actually running outside. Being that I live in Montana and it's the end of January, beginning of February, it's snowing outside, and running outside is just not really possible when it's below 10 degrees outside and snow is everywhere and things are really slippery. I would probably fall and hurt myself. So running on the treadmill is what I've been doing this last month. And as I've been running throughout the month, I've been listening to my body, trying not to stretch myself too far. So there have been days where I've ran 8 to 9 miles, and that's what I tried to stick at, is 8 to 9 miles. And as I went throughout the month, I saw the time to complete that 8 to 9 miles go from being just a very long amount of time and gradually get lower and lower and lower. And as I got further through January and that time started decreasing, that it took me to run those 8.5, 9 miles, I really started to get excited because I had numbers to work with. I could look at the fact that it's like, okay, from start to finish, including warm up and cool down, I was averaging like 14, 15-minute miles, which is pretty slow. It's like a little bit of jogging, a lot of walking. And now I'm down into mid 9s, low 9-minute, which includes my warm up and my cool down in that 8.5 mile period. And so it's getting down there. I'm getting to the point where I don't need as much warm up time on the treadmill. I don't need as much time in between the sessions where I'm running and then walking and running and walking. As I spend more time on the treadmill, I'm also learning more about my body. How much can I handle and before I get winded, and how much should I be paying attention to that feeling that I'm getting in my leg? And I've definitely had some soreness in my legs through this time, and so I've relied on ice packs to make sure that I keep any swelling that might be taking place under control. And there have been days where I've said, I'm just not running today at all. I'll walk a little bit. Maybe I get halfway through my run and I realize, no, if I want to run tomorrow, I need to shut it down. So I was very in tune with what was going on and understanding that if I go too hard and don't listen to my body, I'm not going to be running for the rest of the month. And that's something that was different every single day. A day would go great. I'd have an amazing run where I felt like I could run that same 8.5 miles again, maybe even run 15, 16 miles, but I decide to stop at 8. And then the next day I'm sore and I can only run 4. And then there are days where I ran 4, and then the next day I ran 8, 9, almost 10 miles. And day by day, felt out my body and just decided how do my legs feel? How do I feel during the first few miles on the treadmill, and let that decide rather than I need to hit this milestone. The 200 miles was not a goal until I saw it as an attainable goal. I got to 100 miles just before my 43rd birthday, which is January 16th. And when I got to that 100 miles and knew that I still had a half a month left, I thought, what if I doubled what I've already done this month and got to 200 miles? Now, my original goal would be 1,500 miles for the year. And as I've shared that with people, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people saying that 1,500 miles for the year is way too much. I'm going to hurt myself. Most pro runners don't even run 1,500 miles in a year. And all of that feedback, while I appreciate it, was useless, because 1,500 miles is not something that I'm going to kill myself to get to. If I don't make 1,500 miles this year, it doesn't bother me. But the fact that I've been able to make 200 miles in 1 month tells me that if I continue to listen to my body and I run what I can and I don't stretch myself so far that I end up hurting myself, 1,500 miles is very attainable during this year of 2023. So on my website, I'll link to it down below. I'm updating it every couple of days with like a graph or a bar that just shows how far along I am. I'm using Notion to track all of my running, my active calories, and all of that good stuff, because I'm not always somewhere where I can run with the Zwift app and my Assault Runner treadmill. Earlier this month in January, I traveled and needed to utilize a treadmill that I'd never ran on before to get some running in, and I was only able to track that on my Apple Watch. Now, I found that Zwift, sometimes, depending on how you have it connected, can seem to have the numbers be off a little bit. So most of the time I've relied on my Apple Watch, which I found to be a lot more consistent than trying to retune and reconfigure Zwift based on whether or not I'm connected Bluetooth to my Assault Runner, or I'm using the Zwift pod on my shoe, or a combination of both. I've just relied on my Apple Watch. And if my Apple Watch is available, I utilize that. The one place that I'm connecting all of my information also is through Strava. And while Strava is not completely up to date, because sometimes I'm using my Apple Watch, sometimes I'm using Zwift, and Zwift's mileage sometimes is a little bit off, everything is eventually going somehow to Strava. And so I'll link to my Strava profile down below. I'd love to connect with you there so that we can encourage each other through this process of running. And I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more cycling this year, as well as I have a goal to also hit 500 miles on my bike. So another thing that I'm trying out is a treadmill under my desk, and utilizing a treadmill at my desk, which so far I found is pretty interesting. I haven't included any of that time in this 200 miles, but I'm definitely going to utilize the treadmill in the future because I find that a great way to offset the amount of time that I spend sitting in a chair behind my desk. So if you have any questions about what I've shared so far, maybe I left something out and you want some clarity, definitely ask down in the comment section below. This is something that's new, so any insight, if you are a runner, something that you can share with me to help me progress and become more than a beginner runner would be absolutely fantastic. I found that there is a great community of people who run online, and I'd love to become part of that community as I progress and try my hand at a 5K and a 10K, maybe even a half marathon later this year, depending on how things go. I would love to try some of those things and unlock those achievements in my own personal life. So share your thoughts down in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you back in another one soon. Take care.